Any idea? Yes, Kent? Because I can read your name from here. What's the reason? They sinned. It was actually pride. It was actually pride and selfishness which caused Adam and Eve, or man, to fall into sin. At this point, they fell into sin because instead of looking at God for their significance, they now looked at themselves and said, I can be like God. I can be like Him. Maybe Adam thought, maybe I can make other Eves, Eve 1, 2, 3. We don't know. But definitely they stopped looking at God and started looking at themselves, and that is when selfishness entered the world. Then he focused on himself and not on God. Well, the point I'm making here is this. Social media is that platform where we put ourselves in the pedestal, where we ask people to focus on us. When we live for the likes, when we live for the shares, when we live for how many comments are left on our post. And I'd like to share, I don't know if you've seen this video, but I'd like to share with you this short clip. Many of us are guilty of this. So I'll give you 1 minute to take a selfie and update your status right now. Just saw a video. Guilty. Now, let's do a review first. No? This is the 4th session. So the session 1 was focused on contentment. Social media spurs discontentment. Session 2, intimacy. Social media gives an illusion of companionship without the demands of friendship. And session 3, authenticity. We can filter what we want to share to people. The more filtered our lives become, the less we become authentic. And I think I'd like to share with you a personal experience last November. Last year na lang. Forget November. Last year, about this. As my birthday was coming, later pa. As my birthday was coming, I decided to change my birthday on the profile so that it will not show my birthday would be on so-and-so date. Because I wanted to see how many of my friends, my 900 plus friends on Facebook, really remembers my birthday without the notification from Facebook. So, I changed it and then went to bed. Of course, my wife greeted me, advance happy birthday. I woke up very early and before I checked my phone, I said, Lord, prepare my heart. Because I don't know if I would be ready to face the truth. And when I opened my phone, there was a message there. Not a Facebook post, it was an SMS. It was from my father. He said, happy birthday. And he said, I love you. I mean, he's not fond in saying, I love you, but that really gave me contentment. That the people that really mattered the most, and for people that matters to you, that was enough. That made my day. I realized that not everyone on my friends are really intimate friends. Some, if not most of them, are acquaintances. Not even my closest friends remembered my birthday. But my mama, my papa, my in-laws, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, all the way from Oroqueta, called up. And for me, that gave me a real sense of who I have authentic relationships with. But I dug deeper and said, Lord, I am guilty myself because I don't remember anymore the birthdays of my friends. Without the help of Facebook, I can't. So am I also a person who is not seeking for authentic relationships? Because if I have a problem with that, then I have a problem with God. Because God seeks to have authentic, genuine relationship with each and every one of us. And so that experience made me realize that I should be more intentional in building relationships with my family, with my close friends, and most especially my D group members. And well, it's still a work in progress, but I just like to share with you that story because I know that most of us can relate to this. So whoever is celebrating their birthday in April, change your birth date so that you will know also how many of your friends really remember that special day. Social media statistics. Let me just share with you some statistics. On a daily basis, an average person spends 40 minutes in YouTube. Now, this could be a different number in the Philippines. 35 minutes on Facebook, 25 minutes on Snapchat, 15 minutes in Instagram. This is a worldwide survey. And 1 minute on Twitter. In Twitter, because Twitter is not so familiar. I don't know if Twitter is still popular today. But I'm sure Facebook and YouTube will have a neck-to-neck battle. Now, if you spend this much time, on the average, or on the minimum, if you live 80 years, you would have spent 5 years and 4 months of your life in social media. Can you imagine 5 years of your life on social media? 1 year, 7 months on Facebook. That is how much time you have lost on Facebook. And 1 year and 10 months on YouTube. This is on top of the daily activities of a person: grooming, eating, socializing, laundry. And for most of us, even while we are at work, we also use Facebook. Am I right? Who's guilty here? Somebody is smiling at the back. Okay. I think everyone is guilty of that. 80-year lifespan, daily activities, you would have spent 7 years and 8 months in front of a TV. For some people, maybe more, especially with their account on Netflix or what else. Okay. Social media, 5 years and 4 months, a total 13 years looking on a screen instead of looking right into an eye or the eyes of a human being. It could be your father, it could be your mother, it could be your siblings, co-workers. 13 years of your life would have been lost and could have been used to build relationships, meaningful relationships. Now, I don't know if you will agree with this, but 58% cannot spend 1 hour without checking his phone. Oh, si is checking his phone already. Oh. Si Inigo. Ay, sorry. I agree. Maybe more. 58%. Okay. 59% check their emails as it comes. Work email, business email, 59%. It could even be more for the Philippines. 80% sleep with their phones. How many of you sleep with their phones? Within reach. Raise your hand. Thank you for being honest. Okay? So you don't turn off the data at night so that all the notifications will come in. Nothing will be missed. 84% cannot go one day without a phone. So how many of you would go back to their homes if they forgot their phone? Raise your hand. Higher. My wife is here, so I don't know how many times we had to go back and return to the house to get the phone, either her phone or my daughter's phone. But it is needed man po, di ba? How can we communicate? Oh, 89% check his phone or her phone daily, even on vacation. There are some countries in Europe where when the person when an employee is on vacation, they would make the email say, this person is unavailable. Either you come back or you call again, you email again after his vacation, or we can find somebody else for you. But for Filipinos, especially on vacation, that's the best time to take out your selfie sticks, your, what do you call that? Your chargers, so that you will not run out of battery. Before you eat, you take a picture of the food. Right? Who's guilty of that? Okay, everyone. And there is a new sickness that is coming out right now. By the way, I know you are millennials here, most of you, so you can also answer I don't know if the survey form has been given yet. Not yet? Okay, later na lang. There's a new phobia, monophobia, the fear of being away from a phone. So who has monophobia here? Huh? It's a dili mapakali if you don't have your phone. Now, question. Can anything good come out of social media? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. I think it's turning different. Yes, of course. Something good can come out of social media. But I'd like to share with you some passages first. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals. Now, how can social media be a bad company? Is everything you see on social media true? Is everything you see true? Or is it the best foot of the person, the best version of themselves are on display? In social media, you will find different kinds of posts. Okay. Somebody will post, RTA, where are you? Right? Some would, very inciting posts about somebody else. How many fights have been started over social media? How many disagreements have been made over social media? The Bible tells us that in Ephesians 4:22-25, that in reference to your former manner of life, you lay aside the old self, which is being corrupted in accordance with the lust of deceit, and that you be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and put on the new self, which is in the likeness of God, has been created in righteousness and holiness of the truth. Therefore, laying aside falsehood, speak truth, each one of you with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Now, what is wrong with social media? When man sinned, the focus of man has been on himself. Jesus came so that we can be saved from our selfishness and refocus on God. Now, how can social media, which focuses on ourselves help that. Help this plan of the Lord to bring us closer to Him. When instead of focusing on Him, we have been focusing on ourselves. So exposure to bad communication or content corrupts good character. And we will share some more later on. Remember where it all began, in Genesis. This is the ploy of the enemy. This is the ploy of the devil, that we will not fix our eyes on God anymore, but fix our eyes on ourselves. So our biggest enemy is not other people. Our biggest enemy is ourselves. Are we able to control our selfishness? Are we able to deny ourselves so that we can truly have a meaningful relationship with the Lord? You see, I've realized that. How many of you have read the Bible from cover to cover? Raise your hand. Okay? Not the covers, huh? Cover to cover, good. And everything in between. Huh? Okay, very good. I see somebody familiar. If you've read through the Bible, in the Old Testament, God did not speak to anybody. God did not speak to just anybody. God chose who He will speak to. Moses, Abraham, David, Solomon, and the other minor prophets. However, in the New Testament, after Jesus came, the Bible came out. Can God speak to us, all of us? Yes or no? Yes or no? So how come we are spending more time focusing on ourselves, drawing people to look at us, rather than drawing people to look at God, and spending enough time in our living lives focusing on God? You see, social media, just like money, is a deception of the enemy if you are not careful. If you're not careful. Because we can use social media to encourage other people, right? So today, this afternoon, our focus is on three things. So we can find rest. What are the negative effects of social media? The benefits of disconnecting in social media. Now, I'm not asking you to disconnect immediately, maybe later. Practical tips on how to connect with God and find rest. So what are the negative effects of social media? Luke 10:27. And he answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." So, the wrong use of social media negatively affects the mind, the heart, the body, and the soul of a person, because it promotes love for self. The mind. There is such a thing as attention deficit disorder, ADD. Okay, what is ADD? A person will have a hard time focusing. Okay, it affects the mind. What's the problem with social media is that, unlike smoking and drinking, when there's no more cigarette, you will have to stop smoking unless you buy another pack. If the liquor runs out, you stop drinking, or if you pass out. I know that because I was a drunkard and a chain smoker in my previous life. But with social media, there is no stop button. Well, unless your data runs out. But you can always go to a cafe, right? Or Facebook is now buying satellites so that Facebook will be free for everyone. Is that nice? You want to clap your hands now. But you can't, because it's about social media. Okay, so it affects the mind. The minds have been conditioned with so much information that you will lose the ability to concentrate, You want to check your status every few minutes. How many of you are struggling right now to check your status? Yes, very honest. How many of you made a post just before coming in tonight and are now curious, how many likes did you get? Or are you getting? Maybe you need to respond so that more and more would like your post. Are you familiar with, okay, it affects the mind because you would have hyperactivity, you would have a hard time sleeping. If you use your social media or your cell phone before going to sleep, you will find it difficult to sleep. Right? I don't know how many of you have, but I have experienced that. Sorry. I will say sorry to my wife. How many of you have been affected when doing your quiet time and you can't help but look at your phones, look at Facebook, Instagram, whatever? How many of you are guilty of that? I think a lot. You don't need to raise your hands. So, if there is attention deficient disorder, there is also such a thing as spiritual attention deficit disorder, and that is read as sad. Oh, very sad. Your mind is affected, your heart is also affected. Why? It gets corrupted and idolatrous. Why? In social media, I don't know what your fetish are, but I like cars that are not mine. So, you look at cars. Oh, Kennedy Motors have new cars for sale. Very nice. Low mileage. I don't know what you look at in social media, but it can cause to change your heart. When you look at your friends living abroad, wow, they live in a snow. I don't even know what snow feels like. Oh, my neighbor made a travel. I did not even travel outside the city this year. Oh, they have a new car, new house, new phone. And it affects you. Why? You want to have these things. You feel you are entitled to these things. And you're saying, God, how come? How come I don't have this? How come I deserve it? I'm a better person than my neighbor. I worship you. I go to my D group. How come? So it affects the heart. Also, it affects the body. Bad posture. Okay, so probably if... how many of you needed to have glasses because of too much screen time? Okay, thank you, sir, for your honesty. So, bad posture, sore neck, headache, di ba? Sakit ulo eh. Tired, restless, obesity. Why? Because you don't leave your chair anymore. And stressed. Stressed not because of work, but stressed because you're running out of battery. You're running out of battery. And you have not finished your post. Okay? Or you want to take a picture, but you can't anymore because the battery is too low. But more importantly, it affects the soul.
Yes. Sure.
Addiction can be, social media can be an addiction. We can be enslaved by selfish cravings, hopes, and desires that will glorify the self. Now, are you familiar with dopamine? How many of you are familiar with dopamine? Okay, so a lot of drug addicts here? No, just kidding. Dopamine is a feel-good hormone that is released when you feel good. When you've accomplished something, when somebody said yes to you, okay? Or when you're happy, these hormones are released. But it can also be artificially induced. And this is done through nicotine, through alcohol, and studies have shown that even social media is now a very strong source of addiction. People actually get high because of their experience in social media. So, just allow me to say this. No? Your social media attitude can be or is a symptom of your real, spiritual, emotional standing or status in your life. It can be a symptom. The question is this: if you are this person who puts a better version of yourself on social media, is it also possible that you are that person who puts on a better version of himself or herself in front of your D group? Could you be that person as well? Could you be as deceiving as you are online as you are in your small groups? That's why you would only share the things that are not so shameful. Okay? You only share the small lies. But your deepest, deepest sin, you will never hold yourself accountable. Because the social media is just a symptom of what truly is happening in yourself and in ourselves. We can all be guilty of that. And I hope that today you will start thinking about really having a truthful relationship with the Lord. 1 Corinthians 6:12, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. I don't know if they've passed out that survey, but if you've answered 15 yes, then you are in trouble. You could be a social media addict. Or if you've answered 15 or more no's, then you are a social media hermit, meaning you are not aware of what's happening in the social media world. Okay, and mind you, that test, by the way, I modified the test. That is a drug abuse assessment test. That's a DAST. I just modified it for social media. But it's the same. Negative effects of social media. If social media is focused on the promotion of self, then it takes our focus away from God, which has always been the strategy of the enemy, the father of all lies. John 8:44. You are of your father the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand the truth, because there is no truth in him. Whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of all lies. So, think about your social media accounts, your social media life right now. Are you truthful to yourself? The benefits of disconnecting is a promise of rest. Hebrews 4:9-11. So there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God, for the one who has entered his rest has himself also rested from his works as God did from his. Therefore, let us be diligent to enter that rest, so that no one will fall, though following the same example of disobedience. You know, after the fall of man has always struggled to find significance in himself, to find meaning. That's why there's a void in our hearts. And with social media, it is never going to help us find meaning and significance. Selfishness leads to disobedience and deprives us of God's rest. The benefit of disconnecting is intimacy with God. Matthew 11:28-29. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from it, for I am gentle and humble, and you will find rest for your souls. True rest can only be found in spending unhindered time with God. So, starting tomorrow, when you do your quiet time, turn off your social media account. Turn off your phone. Try spending, as you wake up, 5 minutes of solitude. Let us see if nothing will enter your mind other than your thoughts about God. The absence of social media in your life alone is not a guarantee that you have an intimate relationship with God. What are practical steps in connecting with God? Psalm 46:10. Cease striving and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Another version of that, NLT, be still and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world. So be still. Why should we be still? Because we have been rescued from darkness to light. Amen? Do you agree with this? Have you been rescued? Have you been empowered by the Holy Spirit? Are you yielding to the Holy Spirit, or are you grieving the Holy Spirit with the way you handle your social media account? Do you find significance in Jesus Christ alone? And have we been transformed by the renewing of our mind? Abide in God. John 15:4, 8, and 11. Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. So neither can you unless you abide in me. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and so prove to be my disciples. And verse 11 says, these things I have spoken to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be made full. If you think that social media is the only platform where you can find joy, then you are terribly wrong. It is only in abiding through God can we find true rest and therefore find joy. So, in summary, the enemy will use all means, even technology, and something intended to be used for good to take man's focus away from God and look to himself. Anything. It could be your career that can hinder you from having a relationship, meaningful relationship with the Lord. It can even be your boyfriend or girlfriend that can hinder you from having this meaningful relationship with the Lord. It can even be your career. Therefore, we must remain still and intimately abiding in God to free us from selfishness by becoming Christ-like. So, I don't know if you have the survey assessment test. You can take it for yourself and then decide if you are truly addicted or becoming addicted to social media. Okay? And for the discussion questions, I think I've passed this already to your discussion, whoever is your discussion leaders. Describe how social media has or had deprived you of your rest with God. Okay, so this is not anymore a question if you have been deprived of the rest of God, no, with God, but how, in what way, and what will you stop, start, and continue doing to take your focus away from yourself and set your eyes on God. Thank you so much, and good evening.
Hello, hello.
Check mic test.
Hello, hello, hello.